This better be good. This better work. It like froze for a second. Oh! Got my dukes up for this podcast every week. All right. Will it ever not feel this way? I don't know. Hey everybody, welcome to Class with Kate, where I take you to school on all things restoring relationships. This is Codependency Kate. And this episode is going to come out the week of Thanksgiving. So I'm going to try to tailor it to what people might need that week if they are going home to see their families. This is a little new for me today. I'm filming this way earlier than I normally do. I normally do it literally like the day or two before, but I had some time today. Is a Monday. The podcast from last week is coming out tomorrow that I recorded last week. Anyway, y'all don't care. Who cares? My point just being this feels weird. This is new. Who cares? But today I'm really excited for what we're going to talk about today. I felt like this past weekend, yesterday, Sunday, I posted a series of stories on my Instagram that were just chef's kiss, like connecting ideas and connecting concepts. And I'm so excited to share it with you guys today. What's also fun about this episode, and I don't know if you guys even know this, but on Spotify, I post the videos. So like if you're listening on Spotify, well, I have done this for one of them. I haven't done this for the second one. But I'm doing it for the one tomorrow, and I'm going to do it for this one because I'm using my whiteboard. And so you're going to be able to listen and see me do stuff on the whiteboard at the same time on Spotify. And if you listen, on YouTube, you'll obviously see it there. But I'm very excited about this part of it because that's my thing, you guys, family systems. And more importantly, how different relationships are different. Your relationship with your parents, your relationship with yourself and your spouse or partner, and then your relationship with your kids and how they're all different. I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but when I consume content online, there is a lot of parenting stuff, and then there's a lot of marriage stuff, and then there's a lot of estrangement stuff, and then a lot of self stuff, and nothing really ties it together. And I'm like, that's me. I can actually tie it together. I'm a family systems person. I'm a trauma person. And so this is just very exciting in general to have this platform and whiteboard and whole situation, but especially for what we're going to talk about today. Again, yesterday I posted a series of stories, and it's crazy when you read things, how it can hit you at different times. So the story I posted yesterday, let me pull it up, because it was so good. It was a story from, just some account. I think it was some small Instagram account. And the post was small phrases that build secure attachment. I'm here. I see you. I'm listening. Take your time. How can I help you? So I think this account, it is a parenting account. They help parents, know the right language to their kids. And obviously we all want to build secure attachment with our kids. And so saying, when you're helping your kids, it's important to say affirming things. So like, I'm here, I see you, I care about how you feel, let's figure it out together. And so I posted that. And then a couple of hours later, I was looking at my stories and I just saw it a different way. I was like, oh, what if you said this with yourself? Because a lot of parenting is healing the relationship with yourself. And so it was like, what you have to say is important. What matters to you matters to me. Like, are you saying that with yourself, with your own inner child when you're upset? And so I said that. And then I also added a little thing like this is also insanely effective when holding boundaries with your dysfunctional spouse. So when you're holding a boundary with your spouse, being also affirmative, like expressing a desire also, like, babe, you can't talk to me that way. And I want to be able to talk through things with you. And I'm willing to do that in a problem solving and loving way. And then, having the boundary, walking away or whatever. So it's good to have a boundary and a desire. So anyway, in my stories, I kind of reach this flow state of like, okay, here is something that was originally about parenting. And then let's apply it to the relationship with yourself. And then how does this shift, though, when it comes to the relationship with your spouse? And that's what we're basically going to talk about today is like boundaries, desires, communication, co-regulating, how you do that with your kids, and then what's different with that with your spouse. And then next level is what this looks like with your parents now. As an adult, how do we do things that are in line with our healing and development? And I think a lot of you guys are going to be surprised at what I have to say. So you probably will be and you won't be. Some of you guys that are new to my stuff, aka have, encountered my stuff in the past 6 months, you've missed out on like how I've been historically, which is, I'll just spoiler alert. I have like not advised people, but kind of outlined how being feral, like having a villain era, like how acting on your emotions can actually basically reverting to your childlike role can be can return you to an embodying state of things where you are actually connected with yourself again. And only from that place can you choose to do something differently as an adult. Like you can't fully be an adult until your inner child can really be an inner child, like a child, and what that means as an adult. And so historically, I'm very much an advocate of like, be bad, because anyway, I'm going to get into all of that because that's been historically where I've like came from. Those are my roots. Like those are the streets where I came from and where a lot of you may have met me if you knew me back earlier in my posting days. And so that's where we're going to get to when it comes to like your relationship with parents and like Thanksgiving. And I think that will be a beautiful bow at the end of this for those of you that are seeing family over Thanksgiving or are struggling in that way. So let's begin. Again, so I feel like so many people know this stuff as a parent. Like a lot of people that follow me consume a lot of parenting content, and it's all around, like have compassion for your kids and I don't like the word boundaries, but like help them kind of figure out their own boundaries and also communicate in a way that's not personalizing things. I got so hot on the last episode I did about parents that like involve their feelings in their relationship with their kid, and it just pisses me off to no end because it's just those parents that are just really missing the point and really struggle with gray area. I mean, I saw this video recently that came up on my For You page of a therapist, and I'm just like, God, am I living in hell? Like, what is this? How do so many people believe this when so much evidence says the opposite? Anyway, so the first part of this, let's talk about co-regulating and regulating. This is such a topic, and I'm going to draw on the whiteboard for this, okay? I'm going to draw a little family tree, and this is going to be the foundation of just everything we talk about today. So here's you, and let's see, you are and then here's, say, your parents. Dad is a square, mom is a circle. Here is your spouse. We're going to keep it hetero for the simplicity's sake, not to be exclusive, not to say that all of this or a lot of this is even gendered, because it's really not. This is about the role that you played as a child. Like, this is less about women and men by nature and more about the environmental conditions that you grew up in. Anyway, keeping it hetero for simplicity's sake. And then here is your child. Let's let it be a girl, even though girls are the best. All right. Okay. So when it comes to emotions and self-regulating and co-regulating, here's the deal. Your child is entitled to you being calm. Children are entitled to parents being calm. Okay. What that means in an interaction where there's conflict. So say, you're a stay-at-home parent, you're a stay-at-home mom, and your child is, say they keep like being bad, right? They're like basically displaying unwanted behavior. Whether one of the first issues I talk about a lot is like categorizing this, like reframing this behavior as being bad or like naughty, or they're behaving badly, or, whatever, into like reframing it in a more constructive way. Like, oh, they're not manipulative, they're resourceful. That's going to help you manage your emotions about it. So there's that part of it, which I've gotten into, I think last week, but okay, they have an undesirable behavior. They're hitting something or breaking something, tearing something apart. Okay. That you don't want them to do outside of the house. That, depending on all the circumstances of your day, if you're overwhelmed, if you're disconnected from your spouse, if you're thinking about bills, if you're thinking about like whatever, Epstein's list, like, you know what I'm saying? Like adults were so overexposed to the world, and there's a million fires in our brains every day that are just like, depending on if you're paying attention, nurturing them, like calming them down, or just like ignoring them or whatever. There's just a million things going on in the backs of our mind every day, real life stuff. And so maybe your kid is doing this like undesirable behavior, and and you react to it. That like causes a conflict, right? Like your needs and their needs are in conflict. They are contradicting each other. If the kid is entitled to you being calm about the situation first. Like the parent is not entitled to the kid behaving so that the parent becomes calm. You know what I'm saying? So many parents have like control issues around their kids' behavior, where their kids have to be behaving well or looking good or doing things right or whatever, for the parent to feel okay about themselves and for the parent to treat them kind of unbiasedly. So that's kind of what we see from estranged parents, is like estranged parents used to co-regulate through their children. I guess I should define some terms here. There's co-regulating, self-regulating, and I don't know, should we create a word inter-regulating? I don't know. Because you guys know I'm codependency Kate. Codependency is a problem. This means you're not whole. This means you use other people to meet your needs. Like that's codependency. Like I can't be okay on my own. I can't emotionally regulate. I can't name my emotions. I can't process my experiences. I can't have self-compassion. I can't calm down unless the other person is like meeting those needs for me, unless they're behaving in a certain way, or unless they're saying something to me, or unless they're doing something. Like that's codependency. Is codependency meaning like two halves equal a whole. Self-regulating, or like, let's think of that as like hyper independency, so there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum of co on one end and hyper on the other end. So like hyper independency, where someone can only regulate by themselves. They have to, like if they're in a conflict with someone else, they will leave the situation to take care of themselves. They prefer being alone. They don't know how to connect in relationships. So we can call this like an avoidant attachment, right? Like where someone just literally avoids dealing with other people, but they're like anxious with themselves. Like they deal with things with themselves. The irony of these, what's the word? It's a misnomer. That's the word of anxious and avoidant attachment. Avoidant is the misnomer because they're not really both underlying things are anxiety. That's why they're kind of misnamed. Is anxious attachment obviously has anxiety at the root, but so does avoidant attachment. And there's the myth that like avoidant attached people like don't struggle with anxiety or like whatever. But, you know, I did a podcast a couple weeks ago that it comes out sideways, and not to be jealous of them because it's going to come out. It's going to explode. It comes out maybe in other ways. So nothing to be jealous of. But then what we really want is not necessarily something in the middle, like I just drew here, is we want both. We want the ability to self-regulate, which is what the codependent person cannot do. They cannot self-regulate. And for the hyper-independent person, they can't co-regulate. They can't be in a situation and be calm. So that's why I like to say there's codependency, and then there's hyper-independency, and then there's interdependency. Interdependency. This is what we want in marriage, okay? This is what we want in relationships that we are all on the same level where there's no power imbalance, okay? We want interdependency. The ability to, when you're in a conflict with someone, you need to be able to self-regulate in that moment without running away, okay? Can you do that? Can you self-regulate? Can you take an argument going, like, if we imagine an argument like this, where there's waves, when the argument goes to a top, like to a peak, can you calm down yourself? You're not in charge of calming down the other person, but can you say things to yourself like, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I might need some space if this keeps escalating. Like, I am focused on self-regulating. And the other person is doing the same thing. Like, there's not one leader in the situation where your role is to abandon yourself completely in the service of this other person. That's not really appropriate ever, really. Like, in marriage, where there's two people on the same level, with friends, this is the same thing. With coworkers, this is the same thing. Like, with siblings, like close in age as adults, this is appropriate, is two people self-regulating in the presence of another, right? So where they can say, okay, I'm overwhelmed, and again, expressing this desire, I want to hear what you have to say. I care about how you feel. So you're both saying that to yourself, and you're saying that out loud, okay? That's like interregulating. I just created that. But I mean, that's what this is. Interregulating. Where with your spouse, it's always, okay, I'm seeing you're dysregulated. And that like is, say you're, in a heterosexual relationship and your husband is getting dysregulated. He's being very defensive. He can't agree with one thing that you're saying. Can you say in your head, like, that is part of what's scaring me, and that's overwhelming me, that part of this conflict, and I really want to resolve this with you. I need to take a break until we can both kind of calm down and see this clearly. So that's a boundary and a desire. The class I'm doing right now is for people whose partners like don't self-regulate. They don't know that language. They don't even know that they have a problem with that. They're just kind of chronically defensive. So that's what I'm working on with people right now, is like having boundaries with people, but also expressing desires if those feel true to you, So bottom line is that it's never really appropriate in a situation with another adult that's on your same level to like submit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's never appropriate, really. It's just really not. And let me put a little disclaimer here. If you're listening and you have a marriage where you submit, like, that's your role or whatever, you see that, fine. Like, I'm not really here to say that I'm the authority on all relationships always. I'm very passionate about transforming, restoring dysfunctional relationships to be restorative ones. So, when I think about people in happy relationships where the man is the leader or whatever, and they're super happy, like I'm not sitting here saying that's wrong. I'm just simply here to help people have a paradigm or like a template for what, if you're dysfunctional, like here's a way to conceptualize issues to get you to a functional place. So I just want to put myself back in where I'm at here is if you're listening and you're like, this doesn't resonate with me, good. I don't know your situation. Again, I'm here to educate and based on what I know. You still have like free will. You know what I'm saying? So all to say is that, because I know, and the reason I said that too is submitting that whole concept can be really sticky for a lot of people. And there's obviously like biblical roots and religion, all that stuff. But that's kind of my opinion is like, even if you're in these traditional roles and one person's the leader does not mean dominating. That's not leadership really. Like the leader, okay, if they're going to be in more of a parent role where they're self-sacrificing, are they listening first? Are they understanding your point of view first? Like that's what leadership is. Just saying. I mean, I remember when I was early in my training, I had such a benefit, and I still have this benefit of being newer to the field. And so I feel like I have a closer empathy understanding from like a client's point of view and like the internet's point of view, as opposed to being like so deep in the field that I have lost touch with clients and their needs. You know what I'm saying? Like, except through the therapy space. Anyway, I remember like seeing all this stuff online about, this is when, a couple years ago when trad wife content was becoming so big. And I remember looking at it and like talking to my supervisors at school and being like, have y'all worked with a lot of traditional marriages where there's like, the man is the leader and the woman is like submits? Like, do you guys see those traditional relationships? How do those work? And it was so interesting because they were like, traditional relationships have respect, like they have mutuality, they have understanding. This isn't about domination or control or like one person needing to be in power and one person needing to be subordinate. Like even in traditional roles, you can have traditional roles and have a healthy, respectful dynamic where, like, say, for example, the husband, say he's the leader and he is the provider and he works all day and comes home, and, the wife, say she has like cooked a meal. He's not going to the living room and kicking his feet up and like she's serving him. Like he's respecting her role as the homemaker, and he is like helping clean up the dishes, and that's his part of it, or putting the kids to bed. Like there's still a give and take, and when there's traditional roles and there's a mutual respect. So it's not about dominating the others. So it's less about the roles and more, again, and this is what all my content is around. This is all about mutuality, being on the same page, being connected as a partnership. So all to say is that if you're somebody like can you separate the two? Can you separate your role from the dynamic? Where even if you're a stay-at-home partner, you can still way over function and be dominated and that be wrong and be a stay-at-home partner. Like they're two separate things. One is based on like entitlement, power, and control. And the other one is focused on like respect, mutuality, appreciation. Like, say in that dynamic too, the wife, so she has sex with her husband when she doesn't want to. She feels good doing it because she knows she's respected and valued, even if she's in this like, see, even in that circumstance, it's not a subordinate role, like a stay-at-home mom. You know what I'm saying? Am I saying this well? Like, I really hope so, because I just want to say I have respect for people in all kind of ways that they choose to do their relationship. My scope is this part of the emotional relationship, the respect. I thought about this earlier today, and I kind of got into it with somebody online the other day. I've been getting into it with the Christian population when I talk about this stuff, because I'm like, why does it nowhere in the Bible talk about respecting women and how women need respect just as much? Like, why isn't that talked about? Because that's true. When I help women in these relationships, whether they're, doing the 50-50 marriage, or they're the married single mom, or, in the opposite role, whatever, their growth and evolution in the relationship is about gaining respect. So I'm like, why is that never talked about in Christian marriage? Like, respect is a fundamental right of a woman and a wife as well. Why is that not talked about? Why is it only talked about in the context of the man? Men need respect. Like, women need respect, bitch. You know what I'm saying? Oh, damn. Feels good to cuss on here. Thank you, Joel. Anywho, so submission or deference, or like totally putting yourself and your needs away in these conversations with your spouse is not really ever appropriate unless it's a respectful dynamic and you're doing it because you want to, genuinely, purely, and not because you have to. Like, you want to because you know your partner can do it too, and maybe you have more capacity in the moment. Maybe they do it a lot of the other time. Maybe it really feels like it's 60-40 or 40-60, but it's not 80-20, like where it's like that imbalanced. So that's something to keep in mind. This marriage stuff is so important because it really is the root of the family. Like, it really is the root of your own nuclear family. One last point about that I want to make is that I had this thought the other day. In family systems, especially, a lot in Christian marriage, a lot in like other models of marriage, they talk about how the marriage comes first, like before your kids. And people have commented on like posts or DM me or something being like, I don't want it to be though. I want my kids to be first. And I realize it's because they think the marriage being first means like going out on dates and like having sex and like their romance body, like movie type stuff. That is what putting the marriage first means. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's not what it means at all. Actually, putting the marriage first inherently includes the kids kind of being first. So it's like the parents just being connected and on the same page so that they can approach the family and the kids from this grounded place. Even though the parents are up here, their relationship is the foundation of the house. That's all it means. So yeah, you want to continue to like get to know your spouse, but what that can look like is at the end of the day, taking 10 minutes before you go your separate ways and just talking about what you need and appreciating each other. Like sometimes that's all you really want, and that's valid. You can still you can have everything you want in your marriage. Marriage is not a box you fit into, okay? Your life will begin when you look at marriage as something to fit you, bitch. Like you and your partner. I've heard many people like, I just want to do what's best for the relationship. What's best for the relationship? The relationship is you and your spouse. That's what it is. It's not this like abstract thing. It's your needs and your spouse's needs. That's all, and desires and goals. And, that's all it is. It's not this huge thing. Even with the family, people are, I got to do what's best for my family. I've heard this a lot from men, like, I provide for my family. And even when the wife and the kids don't agree with it or they don't like it, it's like, your family is not something you own. It's not this abstract thing. Your family is made up of these human beings right in front of you that have needs and desires, and that to your face are telling you they're not happy with your choices and how it affects them. And they have a right to say how things affect them, being that they are in your family and they're affected by the things that you do as the parent. You know? Come on. Come on. John Deloney on his show, he's always like, my wife told me this a million times and it took me 25 years to get it or whatever, where it's like, she just said, I want you. Like, I don't need all these accomplishments. Like, I don't give a shit. I just want you. I want to know how you're doing. I don't need to come home and fluff your feathers. I'm not trying to do that because that's not you. I care about you. And he was like, I just wish I could go back and tell myself that. And it's like, it's so crazy when people can be saying things in front of your face to you and you just don't hear it. Not to say that that's him. We all do it. We all do it. All of us do it. So anyway, back to that, like putting your marriage first is not necessarily the romance and dates. And like, I hear this from women in particular. They're like, I don't want to put my marriage first. I don't want to put my husband first, right? I don't want to put his needs first, his sexual needs, his, and it's just like, that's not what it means. That's what Christian marriage made it mean in your church that you went to, but that's not inherently what it means. And that's not what it has to mean for you. You actually get to decide what it means for you. You actually get to create the meaning that you want out of things. And that's a choice. And it does take some like pulling back the layers on like, what does putting my marriage first, putting my husband first mean? And here I am telling you, that's never really appropriate in an interdependent relationship. It's just really not. You can't put your needs first if your needs aren't met. You can't put your husband's needs first if yours aren't met. I drew this in my class the other day, and I think you guys will really get a kick out of it. So here we go. Okay, y'all have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? It's basically this pyramid of needs, and you can't reach the top of the pyramid unless all the layers of needs have been met. So in his model, which he actually hijacked from someone else, by the way, that's important to note. So I'm calling it Maslow's hierarchy of needs when it's really not a hierarchy, and he stole it from someone else. But anyway, the idea is like, you can't, have your emotional needs of self-esteem met until you have like food, water, and shelter. Like that's at the bottom of the pyramid in his hierarchy of needs. So self-actualization is at the top, like enlightenment, spiritual enlightenment. You can't do that unless you have something to eat every day. So that's why homelessness, poverty is such a huge deal that we have to fix if we want to help everybody, because they can't be healthy. They're not going to work on their marriage, when they're struggling to eat, like they're in survival mode. So that's what we want to do. So anyway, that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But this is what I think, from what I've heard, is a stay-at-home mom's hierarchy of needs, okay? The first one, the bottom layer, is household tasks, the trash being taken out. I have this expression. It's always funny when people say, it's like I always say, and I feel like I say that a lot. It makes me laugh. So it's like, yeah, I have this expression. Understanding doesn't take the trash out. If someone's role is the trash and they never do it, or they always forget to do it or whatever, and you're like, okay, I understand you had a hard day. I understand. I understand. And then at some point you're just like, I don't give a about that. Take out the trash. That's what I'm talking about here. This is the bottom of your pyramid. If you feel like that, if you feel like you can't function in your house because it's messy and you need help and your partner is not helping you, that's the first thing on this task list. And I would say, yeah, so people say a lot, I've heard from people, safety is even before this. So like the ability to even talk about this in a safe way. Safety has to be first. Like you have to be able to talk about this when your kids aren't around. Safety, emotional safety, physical safety, where they're not following you around the house, they're not intimidating you. That's a major problem. So that has to be fixed. And then household tasks. Then emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy is second. So safety, household tasks, then emotional intimacy. Then I want to hear about your day. Then I have the capacity to hear about your day and what's going on at work. I don't really give a shit until I feel physically and emotionally safe, or maybe just physical. Maybe physical is fine, because a lot of people have people that are emotionally messed up, but they feel physically safe. They feel financially safe. That's good. But they need to get the tasks figured out, and then they can work on their defensiveness or their fawn response or whatever. Okay. And then at the very top here, we have sex. Okay. So until all of these things are met, then I will be so excited, ready, willing to have sex. So I want to basically just illustrate this for you as giving you permission to make your own hierarchy of needs. Make your own, what do I need to feel good about my partner? Like, what is missing here? So all to say is that's why, like, this deference to my husband's needs, like I've heard in my defensiveness class, like men will be like, well, mine's the opposite. Sex has to be first. And it's like, really? In your other relationships too? Like, I don't think so. I think you've been brainwashed. And that's the feedback I've gotten from men in general, and especially in this class. They're like, that's just a deflection. Like, men are not that simple. Men are not that one-dimensional that they need sex and food and that's all they need. These like brainwashed myths that people have passed down for generations of like, men are so simple, just give them food and sex and they're fine. Like, that's brainwashing. And if your partner thinks that about themselves, that's not true. That's a reflection of being brainwashed. And that should take you being firm in your boundaries of like, sweetheart, that really concerns me that you think that about yourself. Because we know that's not true. Like, we just know that that's not true. Other men say it's not true. And they're going to be like, well, it's true for me. Well, okay, is that true in your other relationships? You don't feel connected with anybody unless you have sex with them. Okay, really? You have to have sex with somebody at work to be able to do your work tasks? Okay. I mean, we might have some bigger problems here. So make your own hierarchy of needs and don't buy into your partner's deflective bullshit about what their needs may or may not be. And again, do this in love, whereas like, because changing patterns, changing dynamics is stressful. It brings out people's worst and their character defects or their flaws, just things that they don't realize have been there, their entitlements, their beliefs. Like, changing the dynamic is a huge undertaking, but it's worth it and it has to be done. So what's your hierarchy of needs? And back to, that's why self-sacrificing your needs for the sake of your partner is just never a healthy thing unless it's like a one-time thing and they know it and whatever. So I'm going to go, I had somebody DM me even actually today and say that this is an example of why this matters. She is married to a guy. She recently lost her mom. So she's grieving her mom. She asked her husband to like help more with the kids so that she could grieve and take a break. And he is basically being a jackass, yelling, screaming at the kids. The kids are crying. Like, so she can't really grieve because the tasks, household and family childcare tasks are not like done well. And I'm like, girl, bye. Like, that's grounds for get out of the house because we need safety here. Like, that is absolutely insane and unacceptable. And I'm not doing it. So all to say is like, you're entitled to have space to get your needs met also. That's a situation, it's more complex. I'm not saying leave him. I also said that's where I was like, I'm not advocating for divorce. I'm advocating for your safety and as a byproduct, not enabling his behavior. This stuff is going to build up, you guys. It's going to build up. And you get to decide at which pace you do these things. Some people are like sick of this stuff. They're ready for hard boundaries. They're just done with it. Great. Their relationship, I bet, will change around in a year. 6 months to a year with consistency. Some people, it takes just, they're in a different phase of life. They have different capacities. They have different beliefs. They're not all the way there yet. They're not at their own tolerance level. And people tolerate a lot of shit. I think that's like the number one mistake women in particular make is like tolerance to bullshit. And if I'll just wait for him to change or whatever. So blah, blah, blah. That's that. Going back to self-regulating. So like if this partner is not self-regulating, that's when boundaries are key. I'm going to walk away. I want to have a productive conversation with you. This is different with your kids because your kids don't know any better. And I say there's 3 conditions for when it's okay to like share your feelings with your kids or when it's okay to like have a boundary with your kid. Cause I hate when people say that too. One is when you know that they have mastered communication and self-regulation. When you know that your child has mastered. They can do it in different situations with different people. They can do it with anything. You see them do it with themselves when they make a mistake, when they've mastered that, number 1. Number 2 is that when you and the adults around them, well, maybe not the adults, all of them, but you in particular have mastered modeling this. So when your partner is treating you like shit, are you saying, babe, I love you. I'm not tolerating this behavior. I'm walking away. We can talk when you're calm. That is appropriate. That's appropriate. If you have a dysfunctional spouse who's not listening to you and they do things in front of the kids, your job in that moment is to model what you want your kids to do when they are in similar relationships. Okay. So taking them out of it, this is appropriate. Like you don't want to involve the kid. You're not triangulating the kid, but safety is number 1 for you too. So it's like, if you and your partner are having conversations outside of the kids and you agree like not to fight in front of the kids, like it's good to have little disagreements and resolve them when you're regulated. Like, that feeling when you're regulated. That's good to do in front of your kids. When your partner is dysregulated and they're denying it, what's more important here is modeling how to deal with these people. And doing it, if this happens in front of the kid, obviously being like, babe, let's talk about this separately. But if they keep doing it, you're allowed to say, we're not doing this. Like, I need to pause and make sure we're all good here. Do you need a break? Take a break. I'm not doing this. Like that's appropriate where it's like, you're not putting the marriage first. You're not betraying your spouse if you model boundaries with them in front of your kids, if you've tried every other solution. Like, obviously you want to talk with them separately about it, like, hey, I'm really feeling uncomfortable. Like, I know we've done this for a long time. I'm kind of done with it though. I'm really ready to not do this in front of our kids. It concerns me that I'm always the one recognizing that. And that really, I'm feeling this is affecting them and they're first in our family. Like their development is first. We are responsible for how they turn out. I am not going to participate in this anymore. And if I sense this, I'm going to walk away. What do you think about that? Are you willing to do that? So you're not saying it in a controlling them way, but you're saying it like, this is really important to me. It's important to the kids. And I'm not doing, like, I am going to protect them. We see this when this doesn't happen. We see this later in therapy. We see it later when the one parent is estranged. Like, we see all of this play out. Kids are going to take a side. You know what I'm saying? So like, or they're going to be mad at the passive parent. Like, you cannot be a passive parent because you don't want to undermine them. And I think that's a whole other episode, honestly. But this is really, really important. This is like the number one thing you have to model to your kids. And then when your kid comes to you and like, hopefully you can resolve it with your spouse, and so that you can both sit down with your kids and talk to them about it. Because they're watching you. They're watching you. They're watching you call them a piece of shit. They're watching you take it be passive. Like, can you be assertive? Can you learn assertiveness? If you want a resource, there's a book called When I Say No, I Feel Guilty. And it's a book on assertiveness. And it's great. It kind of gives specific communication to help with that. But you're allowed to model assertiveness with your spouse in front of your kids if they are resistant to changing this behavior. And this is what boundaries in marriage looks like. This is what it looks like before separation or divorce, is these boundaries. You're allowed to change the role that you play in the marriage, even if they don't change. Because you're going to have to eventually. Yeah, you can divorce and say fuck it and just be done because you're done. Like, yeah, I'm not saying that you have to stay. You guys know that's my thing. I don't know the other circumstances of your situation. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. If you're ready to go, okay. I'm just saying that there's a lot of micro changes that you can do in the meantime that will empower you and help make things very clear, so that you're making decisions out of self-empowerment and not out of fear and survival. There was a documentary about, you guys should watch it. This has stuck with me. I watched it years ago. It has, I think her name is like Evan Rachel Woods. And she was in a documentary with about her relationship with Marilyn Manson and how he was terrible and this like monster. And basically, I mean, spoiler alert, she gets out of it with a lot of help. She's like so abused. She gets out of it. She heals. She gets new relationships. And she goes back into the house for some reason to get something. And she sees him. And she just looked at him like with sadness. You know, like the fear was gone. You know? And that's what I'm trying to help you do in this situation, is like overcome your own fear in this situation. Of like, what would standing up to them mean? What would it mean? And you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to do that. So there's that for the marriage. And your children, when they're upset, are always entitled to co-regulating with you. They're always entitled to you being calm. Whereas if there's a conflict, you have to be calm first. They should never say, I'm sorry first. They should never be the calm one first. And if they are, that's a bad sign. That's a bad sign. That shows self-abandonment. It's good for them to, because if you model this, if you're modeling this with them in response to them, you're modeling this in your own relationships. And then what was the third thing? Oh, back to my 3 things. So they've mastered it, you've mastered it, and they have all their developmental needs met. Like they are financially independent, they're emotionally independent or interdependent at least, you know? Like only when those 3 conditions are met can you like have a boundary or share your feelings with them. Before then, it's never appropriate, and they need a ton of examples in different situations to see how this is done. So that's what kids need. They're always entitled to co-regulate with you. They're always entitled to you being the calm one. Now, and then your partner, it's never appropriate really to co-regulate with them. They're like, it's ideally, it's you're self-regulating, then co-regulating. You're self-regulating, like you're listening to yourself, you're listening to them, they're listening to themselves, then they're listening to you. Like that's why I think marriage is like the hardest thing, is because you have to do both. Because here's the deal too, let's go to the parents. Your parents didn't do that with you, did they? Your parents did the opposite. They did the inverse. They regulated themselves through you. They didn't give a damn about your needs. They didn't know what your needs are. To this day, they don't know. To this day, when the word needs comes out, they go blank. They have no idea what you're talking about. And so that's why I think marriage for millennials especially is the hardest right now, because there's so much pressure on the marriage to like fill that parental role, that parental need of being co-regulated with. Like, oh, if this person would just shut the hell up and listen to me, then I would be okay. Instead of self-regulating, having boundaries, and taking care of yourself and expecting them to do the same. So that's why we're not flipping it where you didn't get that from your parents, but you're doing that for your kid, but then you're half expecting that from your spouse. The question is, do you have the skills? If they were regulated, would you have the skills to resolve an argument? This is what I love to talk about with people that struggle with codependency, because I'm like, okay, if they changed today, would you be ready? Would you have the skills to resolve a conflict? Would you have the skills to self-regulate? And it's like a lot of them do. I don't want to say you don't, but I just want to say that that's kind of the funny thing is you have to be open to receiving change too. And the way that you do that in your relationship is not by being a child and like submitting or being a dominant parent. You're being an assertive adult who can self-regulate and affirm them at the same time. Like, I am overwhelmed. Unless you can help me talk this through, or unless you can affirm and see me in this moment, I have to walk away, And if they can they say their needs too? And I realize I'm talking to a lot of people whose partners don't, but I do think you can self-lead in a relationship and ask them to lead themselves. Like, that's what you're doing. With your kids, you are the leader by default. You're not asking them to lead themselves. You are inspiring your kids to lead themselves. It's an inspirational process with your kids. It's a modeling process. And it's a nurturing, guiding, teaching process. Whereas with your spouse, it's an asking, it's a requesting, and it's a holding firm in your needs and boundaries part. Now let's get to the parents. Okay, right before Thanksgiving, you're going to see your parents. You're doing all this work in your marriage. You're doing all this work parenting. And it's making you so pissed off at your parents. This is some unconventional advice. I'm going to tell you, I think it's okay for your healing. What would it be like to not play the role with your parents that you did as a kid? Like, so if they're talking crazy politics or whatever, instead of being like, oh, that's interesting, tell me more, or whatever your fawn or shut down response or even fight like crazy responses, what would it be like to be like, what? What are you talking about? Wait, say that again. I work with people a lot on doing this, of like not getting into the role that you play where you disconnect from yourself, but like, let's re-embody what you're experiencing. What are you experiencing in these moments, and can you name it? Can you say like, that really sounds weird to me? Can you cry at the dinner table? What would be something new for you to do that's embodied, that's present with yourself, that you can meet your needs and you can make them known? Oh, I'm so overwhelmed right now. Can we self-regulate in this environment? Can you heal the role that you had to play by showing up for yourself in this moment? And, if that's taking space, if that's staying in a hotel, if that's going for one day instead of 4 days, you can change your mind today. This episode's coming out 2 days before Thanksgiving. You can change your mind today with what you want to do. That's the other thing you don't realize you can do as an adult. You can always change your mind. Cancellation policies are there to like prevent you from canceling, but you can still cancel and take a $30 hit. Okay, you're an adult. You can decide that. You're not going to hell and you're not destroying lives. And if you are, this is where Mel Robbins' theory is, let them. That's fine. This is where I can agree with let them. Your parents are going to be upset. Let them. Or if your role is letting them, don't let them. What is something different that you can do that your child self would be so excited that you did? there is an expression that's like, do things to please your 10-year-old self and your 80-year-old self. What's an iconic move that you can do? What's something funny and creative and playful and meets your needs? You know, see, we're going to wrap this up, but this is like how we're going to wrap it up. I might get Joel to put this video on here, but this stuff is so serious. You know, all this stuff I've talked about today is so serious, but you can't lose yourself in it. And so but like the way to do that, the way to like channel seriousness into something is play and creativity and fun. And can you laugh about this? Last year around this time, actually, was it last year? No, it was this past Mother's Day or Easter or something. There was like all this estrangement stuff happening online, and everyone's like furiously, you know, not feeling their feelings. They're just engaging with stuff online. And, you know, I pointed that out. I was like, you know, intellectualizing, ruminating about your family stuff is still a trauma response. Like, you're still internalizing. People were like, oh, you mean like fighting with estranged parents on Thanksgiving, even though I wasn't with my family, isn't healing? I'm like, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like different in a way. That's a good thing. But what can you do that's fun? What can you do that's like out of the norm for you, where you can like snap out of it? And doing something with your body and movement is such a great way to do this. I never tell people to exercise for anything, but there is something to like moving your body. And I'm going to end with this. So every like couple months, I think the last time I did this was, I think January even. So it's been a while. Where on TikTok, you know, I post serious stuff and I'm like intense as a person, and I don't like dance in my free time. But you know, TikTok is like notoriously the app for teenagers dancing and doing these funny little dances. Right now, there is a Zara Larsson, like this girl got invited up on stage at a concert of Zara Larsson's, and she's like, it's like taking over social media right now. And anyway, every however many months, I will do a dance and post it online to like not take myself seriously, but also to remind, just like to get out of my head sometimes. And I'm going to invite you to do that. Like, do a stupid dance in the car, even though your defensive husband is like pouting on the way to your in-laws or whatever. Like, can you listen to Zara Larsson and dance in the car with your kids and not give a you know? Can you like, oh my gosh, this is so funny. I worked with somebody a long time ago, and we were talking about boundaries, and like, you know, boundaries are about what you do, not what the other person does. So it's like, we made a boundary for her, and this was like a funny thing for her. But when her parents talked about Trump, I told her, I was like, what your boundary, you know, okay, so you say, please don't, you say, I'm going to leave. Nothing works. What if you like sang a song when the Saints go marching in every time they say Trump? You know, like funny, who cares? It's serious, but it's like, you can still have fun in it. And so that's my encouragement to you over this season is like, what is the fun, dumb shit that you come up with doing that you didn't get to do as a kid because you were so scared? Do you need to toilet paper your parents' house? Do you need to set up a Craigslist ad for a free hot tub and put their phone number? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's some funny things you can do that are memorable and iconic and harmless in a way too, you know, where this is for you, for us, and it can be healing for you too. So I'm going to leave you with that. This is, it can be a good year. It can start now. It can start with understanding this stuff. You guys are doing great. This is so fun. And I'm going to start doing this live. You guys don't know this, but this is what's coming. I think it is coming. I'm going to start doing this stuff live because it's fun. So there will be like a chat option. Still figuring it out, but life is fun. Let's enjoy it. Have a great holiday. Stay studious. Stay a student of your life. And I'll see you next week.